In this video, we're going to look at the person and customer classes programming problem from your textbook. In the problem, we're told to write a class named person with data attributes for a person's name, address, and telephone number. So that's one class that we're going to write. Next, we're going to write another class named customer that's going to be a subclass of the person class. The customer class should have a data attribute for a customer number and a Boolean data attribute indicating whether the customer wishes to be on a mailing list. And then we're going to demonstrate these classes by having a program that creates an instance of the customer class. So we have two classes, person, which is a superclass. Now the person class is going to contain all of the general attributes of a person, namely the person's name, address, and telephone number. And then we're going to write a subclass named customer. So the customer class is going to inherit from the person class. It's going to inherit the name, address, and telephone number attributes, but it's also going to add a couple of attributes of its own. It's going to add an attribute for a customer number and a Boolean data attribute that indicates whether that customer wants to be on a mailing list. So this makes sense that a customer is a specialized version of a person, and we have these two data attributes that are specific to the customer class. Now this programming problem really it gives you all of the information that you need in order to write this program. You're told the data attributes for both classes, and you're simply going to create a demonstration that instantiates the customer class. So the purpose of this programming problem really is just to make sure that you understand how to write the code for a superclass and a subclass, and that you can instantiate the subclass and call its methods and so forth. So this is really a fairly simple programming assignment. Now let's switch over to the Python editor and let's begin looking at the code for the solution to this problem, and we will begin by looking at the person class. So I've created a source code file called customer.py. This is my customer module, and I've actually written, just for simplicity, I've written both classes in this customer module, the person class and the customer class. So first let's look at the person class. And as we look at this, you'll notice that there's nothing, really nothing new about this. This is just a standard class that has an init method and mutators and accessors. So here is the init method. Notice that we accept arguments for the name, address, and phone number, and then the init method creates the data attributes. We have the name attribute, the address attribute, and the phone attribute, and which is a good practice. We've prefaced those attribute names with the 2 underscores, which hides them from code outside the class. So when we instantiate the person class, the init method, it takes arguments for name, address, and phone number, and then we have those data attributes. We have mutators for those 3 attributes. We have a setName method, which accepts an argument for the name, and that value is assigned to the name attribute. We have the setAddress method, which accepts an argument for the address, and that value is assigned to the address attribute. And then we have a setPhone method, which accepts an argument for the phone number, and it assigns that value to the phone attribute. The accessors, we have getName, which returns the object's name. We have getAddress, which returns the object's address, and we have getPhone, which returns the object's phone number. So the person class is just a typical class like any others that you've worked with up to this point. Next we have the customer class, and here in the customer class you'll see that we have inside these parentheses in the class header, we have the name of the person class, which indicates that the customer class is a subclass of person. So the customer class inherits from the person class. When we create an instance of the customer class, that object will have a name attribute, an address attribute, and a phone attribute. Here's the init method for the customer class, and you'll notice that the init method also accepts arguments for the name, address, and the phone number. And in addition to those 3 arguments, we also have 2 others. We accept an argument for the customer number and the mailing list. So an instance of the customer class, because it inherits from person, it has these name, address, and phone attributes. So we need to initialize those when we instantiate the customer class. That's why we've accepted arguments for those attributes. Now, the first thing that we do in the init method is that we call the person class's init method, passing name, address, and phone number. So the name, address, and phone number that are passed as arguments when we instantiate the customer class, those values are just passed on up into the person class's init method, where they are assigned to those attributes. And then here in the init method for the customer class, we assign the attributes for customer number and mailing list. Now, the remainder of this class is it's simply the mutators and accessors for customer number and mailing list. Here we have the set customer number method, which accepts an argument for customer number. Here we have the set mailing list method, which accepts an argument for mailing list. And then here we have the accessors, get customer number, which returns the customer number, and get mailing list, which returns the mailing list. So these are our 2 classes. Now let's look at a program that instantiates the customer class. So here is my customer demo program. You'll notice that I've imported the customer module that contains both of those classes we just looked at. And the first thing that I'm going to do is get some data from the user for the object, for the customer object. I'm asking the user to enter the name, address, phone number, customer number, and then I'm asking the user, do we want to include the customer in the mailing list? And I'm asking for a Y or an N, meaning yes or no. We assign that value to the mail variable. And then we need to examine the value that the user entered for the mailing list, and we need to convert that over to a Boolean, true or false. So that's what this if-else statement does. If the value that the user entered for the mail variable was the letter Y, then we assign the value true to this mailing list variable. Otherwise, we assign the value false to mailing list. So this code simply gets data from the user, and it establishes either a true or false value for mailing list. Now, in this statement, we are instantiating the customer class. So we're creating a customer object, and we are assigning a reference to that object to the myCustomer variable. Now, you'll notice that we passed as arguments to the init method the name, address, phone, customer number, and mailing list variables. So that's the data that the user entered. And then the rest of the code simply displays the data that's stored in the object. We simply display the name, address, phone number, customer number, and mailing list attributes, and we just call the customer objects accessor methods to get those values, and we display them on the screen. Just a simple demonstration to make sure that it works. Well, let's run this program, and let's make sure that it does work. Okay, so it's prompting us for name. Well, we're going to use Jill Smith as our example. Jill lives at 123 North Main Street. Her phone number is 555-1212. Her customer number is ABC1234. And yes, Jill wants to be included in the mailing list. And so here is here's the data that we got back from the object, and you can see it's exactly what we entered, except for the mailing list we get the value true because that's a Boolean attribute. If we want to, we can run this program again. We can provide a different value for a mailing list. This time it's going to be Sue Smith instead of Jill, and she lives at 475 South Main Street, and her phone number is 555-2222. Customer number is XYZ 676689 whatever, and Sue does not want to be included in the mailing list, so we answer no, and you can see that we get the same data that we entered, and we have this Boolean false value for mailing list.